What if running your business didn't mean sacrificing your time, your health, or your weekends? Welcome to Own Your Time, where we trade hustle culture for mindful, sustainable success. I'm your host, Sarah Stewart, and around here we're all about getting more time for the things that really matter. And today I'm chatting about something that might just change how your weekends feel. So let me ask you something. Do your weekends ever feel like a blur? You finally close the laptop on Friday evening, you blink, and then suddenly it's Sunday night. The laundry isn't done, your brain is already worrying about Monday and your to-do list, and you're just wondering where the time went. I have been there. But lately I've been playing about with something that I call bookending your weekend, and it's been really impactful. So today I thought I would walk you through what that looks like for me, why it matters, and how you can use this simple practice to make your weekends feel longer, slower, and more nourishing without needing a spa break, although that would be good too. So the term bookending is a widely used metaphor to describe placing something at the beginning and the end of a period or an event, similar to how physical bookends will hold books upright on a shelf. And when we think about, there's a productivity concept, bookending your day, which is thinking about the routines or the rituals at the start and the end of your day to create structure, focus, and support well-being. And it's Darren Hardy that's frequently cited about the power of morning and evening routines as the bookends of a successful day. And so I've been taking this approach and applying it to the weekend. So instead of letting the weekend go past in a blur of chores, if we bookend it, it's thinking about intentionally setting a tone at the start and then creating that satisfying close at the end. And it allows your time to feel more abundant and not rushed. And it's sort of a way to stretch time. So if we rewind the clock to last Friday, so for me, Friday afternoons are like my reflection and planning time. It's something that is a recurring appointment in my calendar. And it's my little ritual where I take stock of the week. So, what worked, what didn't, what's still on my to-do list that I maybe didn't get to. And then I'll think about the week ahead and map that out. So there's enough structure there that then, I'm not worrying about the week ahead because I've sort of got the plan there. I know that everything will get done, and it allows me to then sort of switch off without having to then, plan on the Sunday or start worrying about Monday over the weekend. So once that's done, I can then unplug. And the other Friday night, I was at book club, so a really nice way to ease into the weekend. So I was with friends, we had a good book, there was lots of chat. We do talk about the book. My daughter actually asked me that the other day. She was like, do you actually talk about the book at book club? And we do. And we also have a laugh. We were reading Butter the other month. I didn't love it as much as the others did, but it did actually spark something in me. And I have found myself wanting to cook again, which feels like a win. So in the book, there's lots of really emotive and descriptive language around food. And it has definitely sparked something in me. And I invested in a slow cooker, which I've been using, which is great. And yeah, I've been sort of making a more intentional effort to cook nice food. So I am taking that as a win. But there's also something nice about ending the week in community, and sort of thinking about relationships and being with other people. And it did make me think about the Harvard study of adult development. So I don't know if you're aware of this, but it's the world's longest scientific study on happiness and aging. And it's followed participants for over 80 years. It started tracking 2 groups of men, and then it expanded to include their wives and their children. And the study has been written up in a book called The Good Life. I can put a link to that in the show notes. And it confirms the importance of habits like exercise, for longevity and well-being. But the really surprising and impactful highlight was the critical role of relationships. So the warmth and the strength of someone's connections with others can be a powerful predictor of how long they will stay healthy, how long they live, and also how happy they are. And there was actually a hopeful takeaway in that it's never too late to build these meaningful connections. So being proactive in nurturing relationships is a really great long-term investment that someone can make into their well-being. So it just, made me think of that. I think over the last sort of quarter, maybe 4 or 5 months, I maybe have neglected some of my friendships because I was focusing on high rocks for a long time. So there was a big focus on training, and I sort of intentionally deprioritized some of my friendships and things that I was doing. I've not been networking as much in my business. So there probably is a learning there and a bit of a gap in terms of, connections and so on. So it's been really nice to sort of start reintroducing that. So the book club was my opening bookend, like a marker that my work week was done, time to reconnect. And now it's sort of then time to move into the weekend. On the Saturday, I was at the Glasgow Coffee Festival with my daughter. It was a really nice vibe. What's funny is I'd been chatting to my son about this and had said I was really excited to go, and thought it was going to be a really good vibe. And his retort back to me was, "A vibe doesn't butter one's parsnips." So that's been a funny little quote that's sort of been in my head for a while. "A vibe doesn't butter one's parsnips." But I went to the coffee festival and it was a vibe. I enjoyed it. There were loads of local roasters there, like indie brands, loads of people that take their coffee really seriously, which is probably not me, but I do enjoy coffee. And if you're a regular follower, you will know that it's decaf coffee that I drink. But I was there with my 14-year-old daughter, who is not a coffee fan. So after about 30 minutes, she was done. She was completely over it. So that's a lesson learned for me. Next time, bring a friend instead, someone who will enjoy the vibe with me. But despite that, I did rediscover as well some Scottish brands that I wanted to shout out. So we spoke with Figment Coffee, who are from Aberdeen, where I'm from, and we were treated to this little coffee journey where we tasted 3 different coffees. So there was a washed coffee, we had an unwashed coffee, and then finally there was this fruity fermented one. I was told when drinking it to think of a pina colada, and that it was sort of pineapple-y with this coconut taste at the end. I definitely got the pineapple part. I was unable to taste the coconut, but it was really interesting. Just the sort of the difference there between the different coffees, and it's something that I do really enjoy the science behind coffee and the extraction curves and all that sort of stuff. I did an espresso course at a place in Edinburgh. I forget what it was called. I'll need to see if I can dig out the details. And it was really interesting. We did some latte art as well at that course. So I'll see if I can find out the details. I'd probably like to do it again now that I'm like a little bit further on in my coffee journey. Anyway, so we did that with Figment, and then there weren't many other, like, as you would expect, it was a coffee festival, so it was mainly coffee, but there was a tea company there, so Shibu, I think that's maybe how you pronounce it. And we tried this like berry hibiscus tea, which was like this deep, deep pink kind of colour. It was really nice. And then they also had this like chocolate and ginger one that I was really intrigued by, and I had a taste of that. It was so good. So I bought some of that to take home. Shibu Tea is based in Edinburgh, so I like that as well. Like, you know, it was all sort of Scottish brands. And then lastly, we went to Bare Bones Chocolate, which is a micro batch bean to bar company based right here in Glasgow. And we tried 2 of their hot chocolates, which were really good, and purchased some of that to take home as well. When I wrote the blog post that links along with this episode, I sat having one of their hot chocolates with some marshmallows as I was like typing it out. And, you know, wandering around on that Saturday, having the coffee, like all the different drinks, and like chatting with the makers and stuff as well. Like, it really was a nice reminder of why I like supporting small businesses, like the stories and the passion. Like, it did, you know, sort of reignite that creative spark in me, and, you know, help taking that back and then helping that, use that to fuel like my own, you know, work and so on. So that was really nice. It was a really nice way to spend my Saturday. And then by the time it got to like Saturday evening, it already felt like I'd had a weekend. And so the time was feeling so abundant. And then I still had Sunday ahead of me. And on the Sunday, we slowed down. So I started the morning visiting my best friend who just had a baby boy, and like those little newborn cuddles. And it was so nice to sort of, I think, you know, like reset your perspective on what's important. And not gonna lie, I did shed a little tear, and he is just so cute. So that was lovely. And the rest of Sunday was fairly quiet, like a walk with the dog. I did the supermarket shop. I do not like doing supermarket shopping, but it, you know, it has to be done. I did some laundry and started reading a new book as well. So there was like that like element of self-care and rest as well. So it was simple, but it was full. And then that became like my closing bookend. So this like soft landing at the end of the weekend, connection, calm, just like ready to then go into the new week. And so, you know, what is bookending? Like it is this like intention at the start and the end of the weekend, help stretch it out. And it's not for me about scheduling every moment. You know, we're thinking instead about the transitions. So it's the Friday night, you know, work is now done and I'm moving into the weekend. And then the Sunday is that prepare to return, you know, nice and gently. So instead of coming into Monday feeling like your time vanished, we can start our week instead with, you know, feeling nourished and, you know, with a full cup ready to take on the week. And so if you're feeling like your weekends are slipping through your fingers, I invite you to experiment and maybe try bookending next time. So you might pick a Friday ritual, maybe that's dinner with friends, you know, it could be a solo cinema trip, or maybe, you know, lighting a candle and just doing some journaling for yourself. But the key is to sort of think about drawing that line under your work week. And then you can plan that Sunday soft landing. So, you know, maybe a walk with your kids. Like, I'm really loving now that the evenings are brighter. And again, like that also helps time feel more abundant. Maybe it's that you're having a bath, or like I sometimes quite like to do my sauna blanket on a Sunday evening and have a nice shower before I go to sleep. And this weekend, actually, I'm going to a Sunday evening candlelit yin yoga class. So that's with Reset Yoga. So if you're based locally in Glasgow, I can highly recommend that class. It is so lovely. And, you know, you don't need to bookend every single weekend, but I reckon if you do, you will notice a difference. So it's worth a try and see what you think. You know, your time is precious, and I think we should be spending it like it matters. And if you'd like to go even deeper into how you're currently spending your time, I've got a free time audit workbook that you can download. It's, practical and a great first step at reclaiming your days with more intention. And you'll find the link in the show notes, or you'll get it at my website, which is sarahstewart.co.uk. So until next time, here's to slow Sundays, nice coffee, and weekends that actually feel like weekends. Thanks for listening or watching if you're on YouTube to Own Your Time. If you enjoyed today's episode, maybe you've been nodding along or scribbling some notes, please do me a favour and leave me a quick review. It really does make a difference. And I'd also love for you to share this with someone else who needs a bit more calm in their calendar. Until next time, bye for now.